Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a journey into the unknown. The energy that surrounds us presents Riding Through the Unknown with your host, Michael Hoff.
And welcome to another exciting episode of Riding Through the Unknown. I'm your host, Michael, and joining me on this adventurous evening is the one, the only founder and host of ETalk TV. I almost had to catch myself. I wanted to say the host with the most, but
I don't mind you if you say that.
Well, it's true. You do have a whole lot of information, and you do run a really awesome network and just did the Halloween marathon.
Yeah, we did. We just had a lot of fun doing the marathon, which I'm so excited that you were a part of this year. You just missed it last year, but yeah, we had a great time. Had great shows for 2 days straight, and it was a blast. And then, of course, I'm looking forward to next year. Had a few challenges through it, but we made it through, and I think it turned out really awesome. I was excited for it.
Yeah, I was excited to be a part of it, and also was excited with how it did flow and how everyone banded together and supported each other. And I think the most fun was having to look up the show that was following you to advertise that show at the end of your episode, so that it's like you were promoting the next show. And it was really kind of fun to sit there and go, who is coming up next? What is this? Oh, and be able to promote it.
Yeah, and the worst thing about that is I wrote you guys this big, nice, long email. I mean, I should have got you guys on a Zoom meeting way beforehand, but my life was really hectic before everything happened, and then that's hectic. But I wrote you guys this really nice, long email, which you got. But you got the day before the event, and I actually had it all written up a week before, and I thought I sent it out to everybody. I was even asking Dave. I was like, did you get my email? And he was like, oh, I didn't notice it. I'll check and I'll let you know. And then he never got back to me. And it was days later. And I think I was talking to JP and he was like, I don't see it in here. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I don't see your email at all. So I go back and I check and I don't have it in the sent section. I only have it in the draft section. I'm like, man, I must have got, lost in the head and just totally forgot to send it. So you guys didn't know till the very end. Otherwise, I was hoping you guys could have figured out the show after years beforehand, so it wasn't such a big surprise. And I guess because you're not the only one. A lot of people out there were like, "Oh, who is this person behind me? And what is their show about? And what's the guest?" And it made it. I think it was fun. Made it interesting.
Yeah, well, it was a good exercise for us too to, look into who are our fellow network hosts and get to know them a little bit.
Yeah, and I really want ETalk to be a family, but it's kind of hard to get everybody together and to do things. Hopefully, I can with the trivia show, I can start bringing more of the hosts on to compete against each other and get to know each other, because then we can support each other better and create a better network and help each other out in different ways. Because hosts like Dave Cruz and Russ and a lot of the other ones, they've all helped me with different things here and there on learning how they do things. Like, I use a Voicemeeter banana board now, an audio board in my computer, and it's all virtual. And it's really neat. And I would have never thought of anything like that, when I was running my shows before. But he was like, "Oh yeah, you want this?" And so he helped me get it all hooked up, taught me how to. Well, I don't really know how to use it that well, I should say, but I want to know how to use it better, because I want to be able to say, here, Michael, you want to use something like this? Here, I'll show you how to hook it up. I mean, I understand it, but I just don't understand it enough to be able to hook it up for somebody. I think now, because if you remember, I had some audio issues. And so now when I had those issues and we worked on it, I think I understand it a lot better now. But still, it's a little, for me, I don't know why. I guess because it's virtual and it's not a physical thing, and I can't actually see the different connections. Maybe that's why it messes me up. I know all about that. One goes in one place, one goes out the other way. Your input, output, all that stuff. But yeah, so a lot of these other hosts help us out and get things going. So it would be nice if we could do some some things together besides just the marathon. I was actually thinking that maybe we should do a Christmas special and do maybe a 3-hour live show where all the different hosts come on together, and we just jump on whenever you guys want, or maybe split up the host at different times. But I think it would be fun to do like a little Christmas show for 3-4 hours or something like that. Have some giveaways and just different fun things like that. But yeah,
that would be fun. And I was just sitting here just thinking about that and going, we do Halloween, and then it's like Christmas. Everybody does a Christmas thing and an end of the year thing and New Year thing. But there's so many opportunities to get everyone together and just, like you're saying, just build camaraderie and be like, hey, and who knows, maybe out of that, we might start taking time on our shows to say, hey, this person over here is doing really cool with this. I think everybody ought to hear about that and bring them on to a show. And then it's more comfortable for everyone to say, yeah, I'll come on your show.
Yeah, no, I agree. We should pass around some of the guests that we have, because there's some that a lot of people have never heard about, and then you get them on the shows and you're just like, oh my God, who is this person? Like this guy Mark Ferrantino, he's a physicist, and Dave Cruz had him on his show Beyond the Strange, and the guy was absolutely amazing. to me, I love that kind of stuff. So I was just blown away for 2 hours listening to this guy. And like Dave keeps wanting me to delete the show off of the radio station, but I'm like, no, it's okay. No, I'll just keep playing it every now and then. But it's such great information, and I want to get him on my show. And I actually forgot about him for a while, and Dave just had him on his show again. So I'm going to wait a little bit, because I think that's just polite that, we don't have the same guest on back to back to back,
Right.
then that kind of, drenches it and dilutes the waters for the radio station and everything else. And just for your own shows, I mean, I think, yeah, kind of spacing it out kind of works a little bit better, but things happen. I mean, you had Brad Olson on your show, and it just happened that Dave had him scheduled for his show too. I think the same exact week you had him scheduled, so you guys had him basically back to back. And I want to say I had him on my show almost less than a month before you had him on your show. So no, it kind of dilutes the radio station. I don't mind. I mean, Brad's absolutely amazing. So, and what's awesome about that is the questions I asked Brad and the questions you asked Brad and the questions Dave asked Brad are three totally different topics. And so, you're getting Brad at his best because Brad's just absolutely amazing. I call him the walking encyclopedia because, he's just, you can take him on a research trip, which I have taken him on that I planned out. And the guy is just sitting there giving you more information than you do, on the research trip. And you're just like, oh, this is awesome, Like, some of the best things on the research trip is just the campfire, sitting around the campfire with everybody, chilling and just telling stories, man. And you hear some stories that just blow you away. And, truthfully, that's some of the funnest times for me on a research trip is just out in the middle of nowhere, around that campfire, just talking with the boys.
Yeah, and you're pretty much in the Unitah Basin area, right? If I understand kind of your location, or you're really close to it.
Yeah, I'm really close to it. I live in Salt Lake City, and so the Uintah Basin is about about an hour and a half away from me. And so it starts basically in Duchesne, Utah, and it runs all the way out to almost to Vernal, I think. I don't know if it stretches all the way to Vernal, Utah, which, truthfully, I couldn't tell you how big of an area it is, but I want to say it's about a 250 square mile area, somewhere about there, give or take some. But it covers a huge distance, and it has the Ashley Forest in there. It has several different amazing ranches, as you know, anywhere from Blind Frog Ranch, Skinwalker Ranch, Space Wolf Research, which that's one of my good buddy friend Ryan. It's his property, and that's right next door to Skinwalker Ranch. You have what else? I feel like I'm missing something here.
Bradshaw.
But, it's Bradshaw is actually out in Sedona. That's in the Sedona area. But the Bradshaw Ranch is so much similar to Skinwalker and what's happening in all these places. Bradshaw Ranch is an amazing place. I've been out there before, and it's a unique place as well too. And they're very similar in ways on that the property, when they were taken over, it was taken over more or less by our government and kept away from us. So it makes you really wonder what's going on in these places. Up as far as, Skinwalker in the Uintah Basin, I luckily get a chance to go there quite often. And so we get to, I get to experience that a lot. So, but yeah, so they're unique places for sure. Well, I don't want to say unique. I think there's a bunch all around the world. It's just have they been noticed like this? Skinwalker Ranch definitely got a huge name back in the mid to late '90s with the Shermans, who owned it originally, and then Robert Bigelow. He was a hotel millionaire up in Vegas. He lived in Vegas and he ran hotels and all that stuff. And I think he had a motel chain or something like that, and sold all of that and went into the space business because that was always his passion and dream, because he had an encounter as a kid with a UFO, and so he's just always had that passion for the bizarre. He created nibs and all of that fun stuff, and but he bought it off of the Shermans, and the Myers, who owned it before the Shermans, definitely they had crazy experiences there as well. So it's definitely a unique place. But with Bradshaw and that, they're really similar. A lot of things that Linda Bradshaw experienced there, and their kids, and well, the whole family there. I can't remember. I want to say it's Robert Bradshaw. Bob Bradshaw, I believe is his name. Was Linda's husband, who bought the ranch out there, Bradshaw Ranch. He was a stuntman and a cowboy for Hollywood, and he would go out and find film sites and stuff out in the middle of the deserts for cowboy movies and stuff like that. And he found that Bradshaw Ranch, which of course is named after them. But he found that ranch for a movie site. I believe they filmed the John Wayne movie there, and I think they filmed actually a few Western movies there. And so, but after they were done with it, I believe Bob bought it, and they had it, and they had some pretty unique experiences there. And so I think the similarities I see is a lot of craziness. I mean, anywhere from Bigfoot, different type of creatures and stuff. But it seems to me, by reading Tom Dongo's book on Bradshaw Ranch, and what Linda also wrote in there, some of her experiences talking about seeing UFOs in the area, landing in her land and stuff like that on the ranch. And but it seemed like almost every time there was a UFO experience, all of a sudden they experienced something else very crazy. And to me, it just made me think that maybe when something like a UFO or something with something high energy, maybe it does something to the veil and makes the veil really thin, because they would see things like pigs that don't belong in that area and that never been, what's that word I'm looking for? Those pigs have never been, raised in those areas and stuff. They're not part of that area at all. But native, yes, that's what I was looking for. Thank you. But they're not native to there and stuff. But they see these pigs. They actually film the pigs because they were trying to actually catch the aliens, but the aliens were gone, and they saw these pigs out in the bushes and stuff like that and filmed it. But also another time where they had a UFO experience, the same thing, but they didn't film this, but they ran out into the yard and stuff and was checking things out, and they swear they saw a raptor dinosaur walking into the bushes away from them. And so it just seems like the veil goes thin, and maybe you can see through time, and maybe these are just glimpses in time. I don't know, but that's just the feeling I got. And when I talked to Tom Dongo, who was one of the biggest researchers there at Bradshaw Ranch, luckily I got to know him through Brad Olson. And so Tom, that's kind of what his outlook is on it from what we've talked about, is, he thinks the veil gets thin. And I've talked about people about that up at Skinwalker Ranch and, of course, Space Wolf Research and stuff. And they've, kind of thought the same conclusion, is that somehow the veil gets thin, and maybe you can see through time, in a sense, and see things that aren't really native to that land, just different weird things that might have been there, 100,000 years ago or whatever. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. It's a very, very neat.
Right.
It's fun location.
Nancy's got a good question. Nancy, Nooney, and Kelly's asking, did they look like domestic pigs or wild pigs?
From my understanding, they're wild pigs. But they talk a little bit about the pigs in the books, but I don't know enough about pigs. I was born and raised in Las Vegas, so I'm a city boy.
Yeah, I'm the same. I really, unless it's got a tusk sticking out of it, I would say a pig looks like a pig, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. They taste good, I know that, but other than that, they're no fun to chase down the street, I can tell you that.
Yeah. I've been meaning to ask you on the number of times you've been gracious enough to come on my shows, is you keep mentioning Space Wolf research. What exactly is Space Wolf research? Because that's not something I'm familiar with.
Yeah, most people are not. It does have a big following, though. You can find his page on Facebook. It's under Space Wolf Research. He's also on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it right now. But that's my friend Ryan Burns, and Ryan Burns is one of the original researchers out there in that area. He had an experience when he was younger, and it hooked him. And this was before Skinwalker Ranch was Skinwalker Ranch. This was back, I believe, when the Shermans still owned it. I think he first had his experience before Bigelow came into the picture, if I remember correctly. But yeah, he's had a couple weird experiences out in the Uintah Basin area. And so he stuck around that area and well, I believe he was the local fisherman beforehand and was a fishing tour guide beforehand. But he stayed around in that area. He ended up buying property in Duchesne. But they would go out and research, and he researched with some of the other big researchers out there, like you'll see on The Secret of Skinwalker. You got Ryan Skinner. They were friends back in the day. They were really good friends, and they used to go there and sneak around the mesa and a lot of other stuff. They got some really amazing stories. Matter of fact, I mean, that's who I had on to begin the marathon. A little over a week ago when we did the marathon, I had Ryan Burns on there, and I had Dave Rosenfeld, Dave Rosenfeld is another one of the OG researchers out in that area too, and that's why I had him on the show, so we could talk about some of the older stories that a lot of people don't know, some of their stories. So Ryan was so fascinated with that whole area. Like I said, he just stuck around. He kept researching. He kept going out into that area, being chased down by God, I can't think of his name now, but one of the popular security guards from Bigelow. And now they're good friends. He used to chase him out of the area and stuff, but now they're good friends because they've known each other for so long because of all of this. And so, but he loved it so much. He found the opportunity to actually buy land right next door to Skinwalker Ranch, and this place used to be called the Lookout, because it's basically a little hill where you can get on the hill and you can look basically over the tree line, and you can see most of Skinwalker Ranch. The closer parts, because of the tree line, is kind of hidden, but you can see the mesa real good and stuff. Like I can get pictures of the God, I'm forgetting everything tonight, all the different terms and words. The hunting section in the thing where they put all the animals in for the testing and stuff, and the scientists would go above them. I can't think of the name of it now, but you can see all the stuff really good from there. And so he was lucky enough to buy it. He just doubled his land the other year, and one of his neighbors was selling some land, so he doubled his land right there. And now he purchased another section of land that is again right next to Skinwalker and next to his land. And it has all kinds of trees and stuff. It's just beautiful land. And so that's his area, and he's been there researching. To tell you the truth, I don't know how long he's had it. I think he's had it for about 10 years. I'm not 100% sure on that, but just from what I understand, I think so. But he does a lot of research out there. A lot of different research teams go out there. I'm privileged enough to go out there pretty much whenever I want, unless there is another research team out there. Sometimes I get to go hang out with them as well too. It's a very interesting place. And the same thing that's happening at Skinwalker Ranch isn't just a Skinwalker Ranch. It's all over the place. It's all over the Uintah Basin. And that's what makes the Uintah Basin so special. But it's in all the ranchers' land in all of that area. Like I always joke and stuff, and it's like all these ranchers have security cameras, but none of the security cameras are pointing at their front doors or their driveways or anything like that. They're pointed up in the sky. And so, yeah, it's a unique place, and it's neat, man. I mean, I've heard some stories that just really would, it would just blow you away, and things that you're like, really, that's true. And then the next thing you know, you hear something else that kind of backs up that story, and you meet some of these people, and like to me, I think I'm really good at reading people's energy and understanding who they are and understanding if they're truthful and stuff like that. And so some of these people you meet, you hear their stories, and you're there, you want to believe it, but it's just so far fetched at times that you're just like, I don't know. But then you go, and shortly afterwards you hear something else that backs it up, and you're just like, wow, man. I mean, that's unique. I mean, you want me to share one of them with you? I mean, again, I
Sure.
don't. This is a story I would believe is true, and I believe David Gresh, who just had the hearings, I think he kind of confirmed it. I'd have to go back and watch the video, but one of the neighbors out there that has lived out there basically his whole life, out next door to Skinwalker Ranch, and basically he lived in the trailer that is on Space Wolf Research. He grew up in this trailer there. The trailer is really crazy and has all kinds of crazy things that happen there too. But this guy says at one point, I think it was the late 90s, where in the middle of the night, all of a sudden, all these floodlights would go on in the Skinwalker Ranch yard. And then next thing you know, there's a craft there in the light, just sitting there, just out of nowhere, just boom, it's right there, is what the guy would say. But then he said, he said that there could have been hybrids and different things there, but he says there was like military guys there, and if he was to guess what they were doing, they were transporting drugs and contraband, and basically dealing drugs right there. And I believe David Gresh came out a few weeks later after we heard this story, because I'm just like, very, very interesting story. And it makes you think, because this is my first thought was like, hey, what a perfect way to smuggle drugs and contraband or whatever you want to smuggle, because nobody's going to go, look, they're doing smuggling drugs. It's craft. And so the division's not for you. So I think it's a smart idea, but we heard the story, and it was just like, I mean, the guy, you want to believe him because he's just a likable guy. And it's like, why would he BS you anyhow? I mean, he has so many other amazing stories and stuff. And so, because he's lived there his whole life, like I said. And so, like, probably a week and a half later, Ryan's contacted me, and he's like, check out this story that just came out. And I believe it was David Gresh that just came out with the story. So I could try to track that down for you. I wasn't expecting about talking about it tonight. Otherwise, I'd have it for you. But I mean, just it's a crazy place, and what's going on there is kind of crazy. They talk about the curse and everything, and the Skinwalker curse, and I mean, I can get on board with that, but the more I'm out there, the more I learn. I'm not sure if that's the real case. Maybe that's just a story to get people, their mind going different directions and not really seeing what is truly happening there.
Right. And I kind of wonder too, with the team that's on the Secret of Skinwalker Ranch, and I get Dragon and all of them, working for Frugal, and so I'm like, yeah,
Frugal.
you guys are.
He's not frugal at all.
But oh, did I mispronounce his name?
Yeah, you said frugal with the R. It's fugal.
Frugal.
Fugal.
Yeah. Apologies, Brandon. But I wonder, because like Travis that they bring in to be like the science guy. What's your take on him? Because it's like every time I watch him, it's like I feel like he's more there to like tote the mainstream line than really delve into, and it's like there's so many, I feel like, missed opportunities because he wants to repeat experiments instead of looking really into. But then as it gets deeper into the show, I think we're like in season 4 or 5, he's like, he kind of flips and he's like, hey, we need to drill. Something's here. And he's no longer going, well, let's look at this over here instead of this over here. It's like, is that your take on him too?
I mean, I've been lucky to. I've been around him quite a bit. Not just Travis and stuff, and not like I'm buddies with him or get a chance to hang out and talk with him. But I've seen him at a lot of conferences and stuff like that, and I've heard him talk at the conferences about the other guys on the show. And so I do know for a fact that when he first got on the show, he says that he didn't believe any of this stuff. He thought everybody was a nut job. And so it took him a lot of convincing to realize that, hey, there's something really is crazy going on there. But then again, I find it hard to believe because isn't it? I mean, I forget the exact department he works for, but doesn't he work for like the DOD or something like that about UFO stuff? And so it's like, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, but you hear him talk with the guys and stuff, and you're like, okay, I can kind of maybe you thought they were all kooks and you weren't all in at first, and now he's getting to be all in, and that could be why. Could just be the writers on the show, but I mean, I can guarantee you they're not sharing everything that they know that's happening there, or they're not sharing, and I should say, and they're not sharing all the experiments they're doing there. That's for sure. They're
Right.
only feeding us little bits and pieces here and there. And so I don't know. I mean, I was all in at first because, they were sharing information, but now that we're farther down the road, a little bit, I don't think they're sharing everything. And why do you really need to? I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth on certain things, but I don't. They very much could be just an extension of the Bigelow stuff, and they're just maybe feeding us a little bit of information here and there just to keep us occupied. But if you've been around in that area enough, you know that there's much more going on there than what they're showing us. On the thing as far as repeating experiments, I think scientific wise, that's one thing you want to do. You got to keep repeating them to see the results over and over again, because you definitely can't tell any results off of one experiment at all, or even like you would know from doing paranormal research. You just can't go to a building for one night and make a determination, hey, this place is not haunted because you didn't see anything. You got to give it time. I mean, anytime I'm going to go do a research trip, I plan on it for at least 3 days, 3 nights. Otherwise, unless I can't fit that long of it in, I'll go for just fun, but I'm not going to, totally feel like I know that place unless I get at least a good 3 days. And even then, you got to repeat it over and over again.
Right.
And then there's some of the things that happen there. I mean, you go do an experiment out there and something reacts, something paranormal, whatever it is, something reacts. And so you're like, hey, that was strange. What was that? And so you go to repeat that experiment, and then it doesn't do it at all, or something totally different happens. And you see that result and you go, oh, well, it did this, so we could do this, and we'll get a reading. And you do that and nothing. And so it's a crazy place. I mean, I've had weird things happen to me, and was it just a coincidence, or is it something with that land? I mean, I don't know if I mentioned this the last time I was on your show, but I bought a really nice, expensive infrared camera and took it out there, and it worked perfect at my house. I mean, I was just blown away by this camera and how amazing it was. I mean, even my little cat, dude, when it walked across the floor, you would see its little paw prints for the longest time on the floor, just from its heat, just from it walking across, for like not even putting its paw down for a half a second or whatever. You could see the heat sink from the paw for probably a good 30 seconds or more, and it's just like, wow, this thing's awesome. thing worked perfect. I took it out there, I broke it out, and it all froze up, and it hasn't been the same. Now I got to send it back now. And so, did I just get a faulty one, or was it something out there that messes with your equipment like it seems like it happens to everybody? I mean,
Right.
there's times I'll go out there and I'll be fully ready to record 100%, and then it's just stormy and windy and just weather you can't do anything in. It's weird.
It is, and just to be clear, when I say repeat experiments, because I understand the scientific method and the need for that, but I'm meaning like in the show, they're like, hey, there's something underneath the mesa, or they're showing UFOs or orbs going into the mesa. And then the next episode is, okay, we're going to shoot rockets again into the triangle to see what's up. And I'm like, why are we repeating this instead of investigating that? And I'm wondering if that's the show doing that and trying to say, hey, we're getting too close to something over here. Let's shift everyone back to here.
And that very well could be. It's like, let's shift the narrative a little bit. But then again, it could have been that it could have been as simple as they were just filming things, and that one thing was more interesting than the other. Maybe they got no results off of the other stuff, and they're like, I can't really put this in the film because it's not going to grab anybody's attention and stuff. I mean, look at Blind Frog Ranch for that. I mean, I think we I think we donned up Blind Frog Ranch pretty bad the last time. Again, I love Dwayne, but the scenes on Discovery, God, just horrible, horrible. They should just be it should be a gold hunting, treasure hunting show, and then it'd be good. Get the goddamn
Yeah.
Skinwalker paranormal stuff out of there.
Yeah, and one last question for the show on Skinwalker. I'm curious your opinion, and like I said, I'm not putting you on the spot, so if you don't have really thought about it, that's fine. I'm just curious. Like every once in a while, you'll get a nugget from the show where there's like a UFO above the trees or in the sky, and then something will happen to a cow. And they're like, either it died or the quote mutilations that they came across. Do you think they're really connected to the UFOs, or do you think it's something else and they're using the UFOs as a distraction?
That's a good question. I definitely know mutilations happen out there, and quite often. Still happening to this day. I haven't myself seen any mutilations right afterwards. I saw some when I first went up to Space Wolf Research. I did see one animal that was already, dissolving or whatever, degrading and stuff for quite some time, and it was still in the yard though. But I would suspect that they're the UFOs are part of it. It seems, I mean, I don't know this for sure. I mean, but just things that I've read and researched and stuff, it seems that they use those body parts for certain things, whether it's to eat, whether they're using the blood for something, maybe they're doing it for research reason to see the radiation and different things like that. Who knows? Maybe they find those parts of the cow delicious. I don't know. But not only are cows mutilated, but there's reports of humans being mutilated quite often, and that out in Peru. I don't know if you heard of the story. I don't know. It was a few months ago about the face peeler out in Peru. Matter of fact, I was supposed to have my Ryan on my show a few weeks ago, and we were going to talk about this stuff. Yeah, there's humans, and there's all kinds of things that are mutilated all the time and dropped. And it's interesting because a true mutilation, the blood's usually drained all the way, and there's no blood. and the things are surgically cut like nothing else. Like, I mean, me, Brad Olson, my friend Eric, the Awakening Man, and a few other of us was up at Rachel, Nevada area 51 area several years ago, and we left. We were just leaving for the day. There's a hot springs just right up the way from there, and we went to the hot springs, and everybody chilled in the hot springs, and then we all split up from there, and me and Brad were heading back up to Salt Lake City, up to my house for skiing time. And Eric went the other way and was heading back towards California where he lives. And we weren't even separated for 15, 20 minutes when Eric's calling us on the phone. He's like, "Oh my God, there's a mutilated cow in the desert." I don't know how he saw it, but if you know Eric, he's everywhere, and he's just looking at everything. But he was sending us pictures right away, and we were just far enough away from him that Brad didn't want to turn around. And it's like, really? It's like, how do you see mutilated cows all the time? I don't. I want to go see it. I mean, I want to get home too, but I'll take an extra hour or two out of my time to go see a mutilated cow. But I've seen the pictures that Eric took of that. I had those pictures, and you look at it, and around the anus, around the eyes, and there's other parts I can't think of where it was at, but it's like perfectly cut out. And the other things that happen when they're mutilated is that no other predator will eat it. It'll stay out there. Typically, if there's a rancher has a dead calf or something like that, they can just drag it out to the edge of their yard, and the predators will eat it, or even drag it off their yard. But the predators will eat it and get rid of the carcass and everything like that. But not when they're mutilated. They're like doused with radiation or something, and the animals know this, and the animals won't touch it. So that's another good sign. And so that's one sign that we had with the one that Eric found just a few years ago, that it was out there. It was out there, looked to be out there at least a couple weeks or so dead. And there's no predator that came up and chewed on it at all, not even nibbled one nibble off of the thing. So there's a lot of interesting stuff. So are they tied to UFOs? I would think so. I mean, just from what I've seen and learned, but I mean, how do we prove that? So it's hard to say, but I would have to say yes, it has some type of tie and connection. Why are they doing that? It's a good question. Whether they like them as food and like that stuff for food, maybe the blood is used for something for aging, because you listen about satanic worshipers and people like that, and I forget where they get it from, but I want to say it's something out of this world. But they use human blood. We've heard of adrenochrome and stuff like that, right? So maybe the cow blood, they have it for some of the same reasons. Who knows? I don't know. I know what it was. It was in the marathon. With the Brett Luter show, he was interviewing Jess Parker, who is a exorcist, and he worked with Pastor Dave in the church in Yuma City in California, and they battled Anton LaVey, who was the father of the Christ. He was the father of the Church of Satan, and they were these huge Satan worshipers that they were so huge in it that they were actually sacrificing Anton LaVey's daughter, and that's where this whole story came in. But Anton LaVey's daughter talks about how they would soak her in blood to keep her young, and so she would heal. And this guy, Jess Parker, was saying that he's interviewed people that came from satanic places, and that's what they would do, is actually soak in blood, and it would help keep them younger. They would heal faster and all this. I'm sure there's stuff in the blood that might do that for us. I don't know. I mean, this is the only place I've heard it from. So, but you never know. I mean, maybe that's why they drain the blood out of the cow. Who knows? I mean, that's still one of those surprises we'll find out soon, I hope.
Yeah, and that's what the adrenochrome is about, is keeping them young. And that's why if you watch what's going on, when they say, like, certain areas, the supply's been cut off, all of a sudden, all these people that you've seen and going, wow, they look really young, I should get their makeup products. are now aging really fast, and it's like, what's going on? And it's like, yeah, you and so that is an interesting twist that yeah, they age super fast when they no longer have it. But I kind of want to push it a little bit further because, saying, aliens, could be responsible, but I wonder, could the programs like MK Ultra, do they have scientists and the government is, could it be like a false flag and it's really the cabal of the government is going in and mutilating the calves or the cows or the animals and then saying, "Oh look, aliens. Here's another reason we got to hate the aliens. Look at what they're doing to our animals."
Yeah, I mean, it could be a psyops, very well could be. But I mean, just me, I put thought to it and tried to think that because I've heard that before, that it was our own private programs that were doing stuff like this. But how does that serve them? I mean, what does it serve them for? I mean, if they're trying to make us fear aliens, they can do it in a whole better way. And the other reason that I don't see it that way, as far as them trying to use that to make us fear aliens, is because they've been repressing all the information about aliens for over 70 years now. I mean, they're just finally releasing this, but that's a psyops of why they're releasing all the information nowadays. I mean, I believe they're setting us up for Project Bluebeam right now. They're finally saying, "Oh, they exist, and they're going to come after you now. So we have to defend you," And so I think that's what their objective is now. But as far as cattle mutilations, I don't see where that would serve them to just do something like that, because since it's not happening to us, if it was actually happening to humans, then that would put a whole different psyche on it. But I just don't see how it would serve them. And even if they're using cattle for certain body parts, it doesn't serve them. Why just not, buy a cattle farm somewhere and have all the cattle you need, and you can sacrifice them and do whatever, and nobody would ever know. So, I mean, I don't, that's why I just don't, for me, it doesn't make sense that it would be one of our black op programs. I think it seems more like it's happening with some other beings, and for what reason I can't really tell you, but because I don't really know. But I mean, I find some of them very interesting and some of them plausible. But as far as our own black project operations, I just, me personally, I don't go there. I don't see how it serves them, and why would leave the evidence laying around if they were using it that way.
Well, it's interesting you say that because as you were saying that, one thing popped in my head that they've been trying to do recently that I feel like is something they could build up and, it seems like in their playbook is having the plant-based food now and the insect food. Well, how do you do that? You got to get rid of the meat. How do you do that? You make people afraid of the meat. Well, what did they do? We had mad cow disease, the mutilations, and people are getting afraid of beef because all of these things being pieced together. And it's like all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, this really could be black ops. And because I have a feeling all of this plant-based food and the insect food is a psyop, and they're trying to quote unquote depopulate because people aren't meant to eat plant-based chemical stuff or bugs, and so our systems are going to reject it. We're going to starve, we're going to get weaker and die off, in which case they've got what they wanted. And so that's where I'm like with the mutilations thinking, it could be them trying to help, planning ahead and going, okay, now we can push the plant-based because we have all of this fear of what's going on with the cattle and creating shortages that aren't really shortages.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I agree with all the food stuff you just said. I agree 100% with that. I just think if you're going to create a narrative, you can do a better narrative than just the mutilation part of it. But everything else you just said, yeah, I think that's all psyops. Yeah, they're 100% going to try to get us to start eating bugs. They're going to save the meat for themselves because it's what the protein does for us. The protein does a certain thing for the body, and it makes the body react, and our emotions will react a certain way. And so the protein in the meat help give us, you know, that I want to say it the right way so it doesn't, it gives us that fighting edge in a sense. It makes us question, it makes us stand up for ourselves. It has a certain chemical reaction that creates that type of feelings within us. And so if we don't have meat, we become more docile. And
Right.
so I think that's a big thing because they don't want us to stand up for ourselves. They don't want us to stick up for ourselves and have that energy about us and stuff. And so, and one, you know, I know a lot of vegans wouldn't agree, and maybe vegetarians wouldn't agree. But meat is just amazing and it tastes great. Should we be eating it? I think when we evolve to a certain degree, I think we will stop eating meat and stop eating other things. But I always like to get in that conversation with vegetarians and vegans and stuff about, well, we should eat plants and not eat animals. Well, what's the difference? What is the difference between an animal and the plant? The plant can't give you the puppy dog's eyes, but the plant's still a being. The plant is one of the most divine beings there are on this planet. And so we're going to eat up the divine being. I mean, not saying that the animals aren't divine, but it's about how you give it energy that makes
Right.
it what it is, if that makes sense and stuff. So if you bless it, like, we should learn from like the Native Americans and so many other ancient cultures and stuff. I got one of the best things in my life was I got a chance to go up to the Hopi reservation years ago in 2012 and got to spend some time with the Hopi elders. And one of those Hopi elders was sharing to me just, the eating cycle and how you bless your food and all these different things. And that he talks about how when he eats, he doesn't say a word. He focuses in on his food and is blessing his food from every chew, just everything, and just constantly blessing your food and thanking creation for giving it to you and all of that. And so it's just an amazing eye-opening way. And so it's just realizing that you're one with everything and working with everything. And so it's how you bless things that and how you look at things that make things wrong or right. There is no wrong or right, really. There's a yin and yang to things, but there's really no wrong and right. And so, I don't know, I'm getting into a long story here, but back to the bugs and everything. So, yeah, they're going to try to get us to eat bugs. I mean, that is a psyop plan right there. They're forcing that down our throat for sure. And so, if you want to force the public to go that way, I think the mad cow disease would be a more way to frighten the public to go, whoa, 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 we better not eat anything. Look what it's doing to these cows. They're flipping out. I don't want to end up like that, so I don't want to eat the meat. When I saw mad cow disease when I was younger, I got nervous and stuff. I was cautious about eating the meat, but it was what they were doing to the cows. They're forcing the cows to eat other cows, and it made them go crazy like that. Or at least that's my understanding of what happened and stuff. I could be wrong on that, but if I remember correctly, that's what they were doing, was making the cows eat other cows, and you're not supposed to do that as an animal. I don't think you do that in any species where you eat your own species. I think that would make anything go crazy probably, um, but that's what I heard they were doing, and that made the cows go crazy and stuff. And so, but that would scare the shit out of me for sure. And I'm pretty smart about my food and stuff like that. And so, like, well, I won't get into that, but yeah, I think there's other ways to scare the people into that. But they
Right.
want us eating bugs. They want us all that. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And the bugs, you're right. The bugs are not made for humans, human consumption. And so we'll start to lose a lot of different nutritions. We'll become sickly. I heard there's actual stuff in some bugs that will actually start to make you sick because of the reaction to it. So yeah, we've got a lot of different psyops going, but I don't think the cow mutilation goes into that, or at least for me personally. I don't think it goes there. I think there's a lot of other ways you can go there. And again, that's why my conclusion is, I feel that it is coming from off-planet beings, or, who knows, maybe beings from inside the earth. But I think somebody outside the human race is picking them up and doing something with them.
Right. And I mean, that's one of the things too, is I always am cautious about, when I'm going into like delving into like the esoteric side of things, is because you can start easily connecting dots and creating scenarios and pictures, and it all sounds logical, and it all, and everything, you sit there and go, well, there's no proof of this or that, but they wouldn't leave proof right out in the open of it. And so it's like, it must be true. And it's like, well, no, that doesn't make it true. And it's like they say, beware the proverbial rabbit hole, because you may dive down way deep and you passed like 5 feet above what you're looking for, but you were like, no, so focused on this that you kept going.
But the one thing with the cabal is they do put it out in the open. That's the thing about the cabal. They'll put it out in the open because them putting it out in the open frees them from infringing on our free will. And they do. They'll put it out maybe 20 years beforehand, but listen to Bill Gates. What was Bill Gates saying, back in the early 2010 and stuff? What was he saying about vaccines? What was he saying about viruses back then? So they do put it out there right out in the open. But how you have to be smart enough to see it, because that's how they get past our free will. We've talked spiritual stuff before. To me, there is no wrong there is. The only person that judges you is you. You are the judge and jury of yourself. But the only thing I think, I don't believe in karma at all, like the way so many other people do. The only karma I look at and I say, yeah, you'll get karma from this, and that's infringing on somebody else's free will. I think that is like the biggest sin you could possibly do. Okay. And so they know it too. And so they do things that it's in the open. It's in our movies. It's in our books. It's in the Bible. It's all over the place, but you have to be smart enough to look for it and start to see this. Like, I just did a great show this last Thursday with Brett Luter. I don't know if you happen to see it, but it was about the United States of the Republic against the United States of the corporation. And what have they done to us and stuff, and how have they imprisoned us and taken our constitutional rights away. And so Brent shared with us that the Republic stuff is still there. They've just put a mask over it, and they've hidden all of that, and they've trapped us with our birth certificate and our social security numbers and all these other things that are an imprisonment in the deep state system. But if you know how to look through the books and you know how to do this and that, you can find out. And Brent is a prime example of this, that you can break away and get out of the corporation, stop being a resident of the United States, and become back into the Republic. It's there. You just have to find the information. Watch my show. It was absolutely amazing. A lot of this he gets from Jordan Maxwell. Jordan Maxwell was his original teacher on this. Amazing stuff. There's a lot of other people that do it in different ways, but he's no longer a United States resident. He is now a non-resident alien. Okay. He is back into the Republic status. And so he doesn't pay Social Security, he doesn't pay income tax anymore, because that's against our constitutional right. But with this corporation, they were able to create a veil, put it over us, start to force us to pay taxes. Our taxes mainly go to the Rothschilds and them and stuff. It's a big scam. But all of this stuff is out there. We can figure out how to get away from it, to detach from all of this stuff. but we have to figure it out. And so they put all the information out there. They don't hide anything, and it's up to us to figure it out. This way, like I said again, they get past our free will, and that's a big thing. And so we allow this to happen through our ignorance. And so we can't be upset at them for doing this to us, because we're doing it to ourselves. We just don't realize how it's being done. But I think now people are starting to wake up to a little bit of this, with everything that's happened in the last, 5-6 years or more. But we will soon awaken a lot more and start to really understand. And hopefully we'll be back to the Republic in a short amount of time, and all this other stuff will be gone. But this corporation has invaded all the other countries as well, too.
Right. And talking about being out in the open, I feel like, I don't know why I never put this together, and maybe, it's like we were talking about where you go down the rabbit hole and there is no rabbit hole, but your mind makes one. Is I was just thinking about, like, when we were talking about the mad cow disease in the 80s, I believe it was, there was one other big event that took place in that time frame that everyone has hence forgotten and figured left with that was the cloning of the sheep, Dolly. Remember that? And
Yeah.
I can't help wondering, was that a psyop? Because one, there was only one, they claimed one sheep was cloned, and then they shut it all down. It's like, really? Do we really believe they stopped cloning when they successfully cloned a sheep and it worked, and science would go, okay, well, we did it, so we're done. We don't need to do this anymore. I seriously doubt that, and I wonder now, have we been eating cloned meat? Because people who eat sheep, if one was cloned, did the cloned sheep Dolly have offspring, and did that transfer to others, or what effect does that have? And I don't think we ever really sat down and thought about, how are we having shortages of meat when we can clone the animals? That doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah, no, 100%. And you're right. I've never thought about that. So good thing I don't eat a lot of lamb, but not to say that it's not happening to the other animals as well, too. And that's a big thing, because I wouldn't trust that. I trust nature. I trust the creative energy of all that is, but I don't trust man. Where does man think that they know how to act as God and change what God has created in just the last few hundred years? I mean, where do we get off thinking this? I mean, look at what we've done to our own plants. But again, I think this is by design. But a plant, if you plant a plant in good soil and give it the nutrition it needs, and don't put any bug repellent on it, it will create its own bug repellent. Okay. And so a nice, strong, healthy plant will not be eaten by bugs, because it will put out its own repellent and repel the bugs itself. Okay. The weak plants, just like anything in nature, and this is again where you got to look at nature and how does nature act. You look at any weak animal, any weak plant in nature, and it gets eaten. Okay. The wolves go after the weak. The Native Americans, when they go hunting, they pray that they get the ones that will not make it through the season. So they, and the wolves know this, and the Native Americans know this. You don't go after the head of the herd. You go after the weak, because you want the herd to keep producing. Otherwise, you kill off your source. And so you need that source to keep going. And so, you let this happen. And so what we're doing, I mean, we think we're gods in a lot of ways, or at least some of these people do. And they think they can control nature. And so we put bug repellent on our plants, and we're killing off the plants. And so now the plants don't have as much antioxidants in it. If the plant creates its own bug repellent to repel the bugs, it actually has a stronger antioxidant than one that we would spray with bug repellent to keep the bugs off. And so we're doing everything backwards. So yes, us to clone meat and stuff like that, yeah, that would be pretty bad for us to eat. They probably wouldn't have all the right stuff in there, but who knows? Maybe it would. I don't know. I don't know how that cloning process works enough. But since you brought up cloning, let's just go a step further with that. Let's take a look at what we're hearing nowadays with our politicians and all these people. I mean, I know I've heard that, we're on like our third different clone for Biden. Well, is that true? I don't know if I go there 100%, but can we clone people? Well, if we clone Dolly the sheep, there's probably a good chance we can clone a person pretty easy, because working with cells is actually a real easy thing to do in science, and manipulating DNA and stuff like that isn't as hard as people would think. And so I think we have the technology. I think we have the ability to clone people. How does it work? Do we start as an embryo and have to grow into the body? I don't know. I don't know how that works. Or do you just create a clone and it's already an adult? I don't think so. I think with Dolly, they made it an embryo, right? And it grew. Right. And so the cloning of the people, I'm not 100% sold that some of these politicians have already died off and these are their clones and stuff. I don't think I'm on board with that. I think that technology is probably there. I think the technology is probably way more advanced than what we think. But like what you said, they came out with that in like the mid 80s, early 80s, mid 80s, something about Dolly, and then it hushed up. Why? Because they don't want us remembering that technology, like you said. I mean, I totally spaced that off, but they don't want us remembering it because, yes, they probably are advancing that technology and now they're using it for their own privilege. Why aren't we going to the moon anymore? Anybody asking that question? Why aren't we going there? We haven't been there in God, how long? We haven't landed on the moon. Why? I mean, is it because of some of the real stuff that was said about when we landed on the moon, and there's reptilians and Nazis on the moon looking at us, flipping us off? I don't know.
That's kind of fun. Thinking of a reptilian flicking us off.
They just landed on the moon. The first Martian humans on the moon. And they acted like somebody killed their dog before they got out there to the press conference and stuff. All of them were distraught. None of them were happy and excited to be back. They were all distraught. What really happened on the moon? Why didn't we go back?
Well, not only why didn't we go back, but why did it take so long for, if we're in the so-called space race, if you land on the moon, that's not the end of the space race, because there's Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, all these other planets. And it's like, it seems like we hit the moon and it was like, okay, that's as far as we're going. And now they're talking about going to Mars, and it's like, well, we don't have the equipment to go to Mars. I'm like, we have the equipment to go to the moon and back. I don't see why. We can make airplanes faster, we can make jets faster, military vehicles faster, but we can't make a shuttle faster to make Mars and back. It's like all their reasoning doesn't make sense. And the other thing I like to point out when we talk about the moon, how they say there's the dark side of the moon and we never see it and we can't communicate with everything there. I call BS on that, because it's a round sphere. The Earth is a round sphere. Yes, flat earthers, the Earth is round. We have satellites. Yeah, we have satellites around the planet that allows us to communicate. Yet nobody puts a satellite around the moon so that we can talk to our shuttles. That seems like that would have been 101 space travel. We have to talk to them. What happens if something happens when they're coming around the moon to come back? It's like, but yet they're like, no, we just can't talk on the moon. Really?
Yeah, I mean, look, they're able to communicate back and forth. Yeah, and they just use basic stuff. And so, one of Von Braun said, before we even landed on the moon, he was like, I can get you to Mars, you know? And so to say we didn't get to Mars, I think is, not, to me, I think it's the same thing as what we were just talking about with Dolly. We saw the technology and then they hushed it up on us and they just try to keep us in the dark. And they do their thing and they can keep us, most of the public in the dark for a long time. That's the whole same thing with this the climate change and all this BS. You know, most of us don't know enough about the earth and the climate of the earth and all this stuff so they can pull the wool over our eyes. They can do it so easy because we mainly focus on our own lives and what we specialize in our own lives. And so many of us don't specialize in the climate and all these things, so it's so easy to pull the wool over our eyes. So they do it with so many different things. But yeah, I mean, to tell us that we don't have the technology to get to the Mars now. And I mean, look at the landing craft that they landed on the moon with. I mean, to me, I look at that and I'm like, I I believe we got to the moon from because of other stories and stuff like that. I do believe that me personally, I think they filmed it. I think it was a Kubrick filmed it.
Right.
Um, I think he filmed it because I think it was too important of an event. We had to beat Russia, whether we faked it or not, that we made it to the moon. But the one time every time I look at that landing thing, I'm just like, okay, that looks like it's been made out of basically tinfoil. How in the hell did they get onto the moon with that and even get back to any type of craft or back to the earth? I don't know. But that thing just looks like the shittiest built thing ever. And I wouldn't trust my life in that damn thing, that's for sure. So if we actually made it to the moon in that, then yeah, we have to have the technology to get to Mars. But I mean, me personally, I believe we've been to Mars. I believe we have bases on Mars, but that's all in the Black Op programs. That's nothing that we know about. But that could also be why they're bringing up aliens now too, because our technology is getting so advanced that maybe they're not going to be able to hide this very much longer from us. And so maybe they know this and they have to start to release some of this information. And so that maybe that's why they're talking about aliens now. But I think it goes to, again, one of Von Braun and him talking to his secretary on his deathbed and talking about Project Bluebeam. And I strongly believe Project Bluebeam's still in effect. And I think that, yeah, that they're starting the psyops now. And that's why you're hearing so much information about aliens.
I agree. And one of the thing of, as we're talking about space, and I just was piecing together in my brain, like getting glimpses of stuff was, as we're saying, traveling to Mars and other things. What was the big thing in the 90s that happened in science that everybody was like all the Trekkies were going nuts over? They cracked warp speed. Then you never hear a word again about how we have warp technology now. And it's like, wait a minute, we have warp technology. Now we keep it quiet. And they're talking about going to Mars and saying, well, we can't get to Mars. I'm like, if we go warp speed, we can make Mars and back. We don't, it's not it's going to be 100 years or however long it is trip anymore. It's like significantly shorter. Now, I don't believe science would sit there and crack, warp speed without having a means of containing like an engine system that could handle it. Because I just don't see science wanting to go, hey, we have warp speed. How cool is this? But now we have to go to the drawing boards and build an engine that can contain it. It's like, no, I think they already had the engines to contain it. and just needed to fine tune it and figure out how to attach them to a ship.
And where did they get all this technology? I mean, look at how fast we advanced from a horse and buggy. So where are we getting all this interesting technology from? So are we getting help from somewhere? Is it retrieved crashes? I mean, I mean, such an interesting subject. That's why I'm so happy I got into it. I mean, there's never end on interesting things to talk about. There truly isn't. I mean, look at how we've jumped around. We were mainly coming here to talk about Uintah Basin. Look how we've jumped around to a million different topics already tonight. But that's this whole field. I mean, it's so amazing, and the same with spirituality. I mean, it covers everything, and that's why I'm here. I mean, my studies into UFOs and stuff is more of a spiritual growth than it is about, hey, I want to see an alien. I mean, I want to learn more about creation and life, and so I've studied a lot about the planet and everything like that, and just regular life. So maybe now it's time to learn more about the stars. So I just think it's such an amazing topic and so many cool things. And what's going on right now is just absolutely amazing too. I mean, it's a crazy time on this planet, but what a perfect time to learn how to center yourself and stay centered and learn how to actually control your existence, while existence could look chaotic around you, for you to be able to stay centered and whole. What an amazing challenge, and what a gift we have at this moment. It's just, do we take it or do we sit here in fear?
Exactly. And the funny thing about what I love about doing series like these and episodes like this with you is we were talking on a prior episode, and I can totally rein in everything we've been talking back into the basin, because remember we were discussing the one episode where they found underneath the mesa area in the dirt where the drill couldn't go horizontally through, that they were having material that was similar to space shuttle material. And so we were talking about that, and it's like, yeah, so, is there a connection between space and the basin? Well, how can there be space shuttle material buried deep under the ground of the basin if we didn't already have that technology? And if it's not a space shuttle under there, what craft gave us that material to make our shuttles is the question. So either way, there's no way they can't connect them, because every question you can come up with ties the two together.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, yeah. I don't even know what to say there, because you know what? It's just, I'm waiting until, unfortunately, maybe I have to transition and go to a different lifetime to be able to maybe get some of these answers in between. Maybe, maybe there'll be a guy on the other side that'll give me a lot of these cool answers, or maybe we'll make it through all the chaotic stuff, which I think we will, and we'll go into that golden age, and a lot of these different things will be answered. Because I think, one thing we need to look at when you talk about what you are talking about now with finding that type of material under the ground is it an ancient civilization? I mean, I believe, just by what I've seen, off of learning different things and stuff, all these ancient sites and stuff, I truly believe we've advanced to high technology many, many times before, and have either killed ourselves off, maybe got in some space war with somebody else. I mean, look at some of the texts in the India. What is it? The Veda? Is that the Indian Bible? The Veda, something like that.
Yeah.
Where they show all the different the battles in the skies, and there's even the German newspaper, an ancient German newspaper, I think from the 1800s, that shows a battle in the sky too. So who knows how we've wiped ourselves off of the face of the earth before, but I think we have many times. And I think that we've had, very, very advanced technology here before. And so maybe that's it. Maybe it's some old place from thousands and maybe millions of years ago that is still under there that they're digging into, and that's why they're finding some type of material like this that they've already found this type of technology back in that time. Maybe they built it around their structure underground to help it for heat and stuff like that. Who knows? I have no idea, but I mean, these are just thoughts that would go through my head about stuff like this because, try to think about every aspect you can and every angle you can to try to figure out more stuff. So you just don't know how it got there. But yes, I'm just as interested as you. I think there should be some digging going on there. Why isn't there digging? They say, well, it's cursed to dig, and something's going to happen when you dig. Well,
The gamma radiation.
that tells me even more. Let's dig. Maybe we raise the insurance policy on everybody here, but let's dig. Let's get to the excitement because it's going to only happen once, and then we're going to find out, or we'll all be cursed and we'll all die. Whatever, we're going to die anyhow. So let's go for it, man. But I don't know. I mean, I think. Me personally, I think they have a very good idea what's under there. I think Fugel knows what's under there. I think Bigelow knows what's under there. I don't think the Shermans or the Myers had any clue what was under there, but I think it's been under there for a long time.
Yeah, I think Travis knows too.
Travis could probably be privy to it. I would assume he would. If Fugel knows, then I think Travis would know, and maybe, I don't know. It's just, nowadays we don't want to trust anybody, or at least I don't. Trust level is very thin nowadays with with everybody, and so. With Travis, who knows? He could be the disinformation guy on there trying, because everybody wants to believe in him because he's the science guy. And so maybe he's, throws out the smoke screen. I don't know. But I think something's under there, especially talking to other researchers. My friend James Keenan, he thinks that there's a UFO base under there, an ancient one. I would probably agree as well too, just from things I saw. I think I shared pictures with you on the last show, the infrared pictures in the chat room that Terry Carter shared with me. So I do believe there's some type of base under there. I keep referring back to for some people, I talk about they made that series, the Project Bluebeam, a few years back, and for some reason that just canceled, and it was a great series. I think it was doing really good from what I saw, and they just canceled it right in the middle of I think they're starting to film their second or third season, and they just canceled it. I want to say third season. And I think it's maybe because the information coming out, maybe people were questioning it too much. Why was this top secret? And so if it was top secret, maybe there really was something about it. But they did a series episode on Skinwalker Ranch, and at the very end of the episode, they show the Meyer kid going, the Meyer kid would keep disappearing and stuff. And he disappeared, and they found this like doorway and tunnel under one of the ranches, one of the homesteads, and they followed it through, and it went to an underground military base. And it just made me wonder, it's like, why would they have, I mean, nothing like that was in the whole episode, but all of a sudden at the end of the episode, they show the kid in this military base watching TV, like they were allowing the kid to come there and like, influencing the kid or whatever. But it was just all of a sudden, boom, there it is. And it's like, why did they put that in there? Is that a little truth bomb that they're, trying to throw out to us and stuff, saying, hey, yeah, we have possession of it, And so it makes me wonder, do they actually, does our black op programs actually have possession of the ancient base, ancient city, whatever it is underneath Skinwalker? And again, I think we talked about this on the last episode, but yeah, it's interesting for sure.
Yeah, and Nancy has she asked an interesting question earlier, and we kind of gone round robin back to it a little somewhat, and she said maybe they are looking for the weaker group and they are looking for weaknesses. What the info they can make subtle changes to meats that alter our makeup to want to follow them with a question mark. So yeah, I mean,
I think she's 100% right. I think that's the purpose, is because you can manipulate things in a huge way. And if you manipulate the genes and stuff like that, I mean, look at our food. Our food has an influence on our emotional state. Just regular, healthy, organic food will have a change in your emotional state. When you eat from one fruit to a different fruit, or maybe vegetables, they all, because of the chemical balance of the fruit and vegetables, it has a different reaction within your body, which creates a different emotional reaction within you. And that's one reason why they want us to stop eating beef, because again, I can't really express that state I'm looking for, but with meat, it makes you more, I don't want to say aggressive, because that, that looks bad, but it gives you more of a fight attitude, a fight or flight. No, not fight or flight, but just a fight attitude, to where you defend yourself, stick up for yourself. You just have that good attitude. But she's right.
it gives us the hunters.
It changes you.
Yeah.
Yes. I guess that's the best way to put it. And so, yes, it changes you. And so they will manipulate our food. And that's why we have GMOs now, because they are manipulating our food so it doesn't do the same thing that it did before. And that's why people are getting sick. That's why people get obese, is because if you go out there and just buy regular fruits and vegetables, and you're not getting organic, unless you're getting it from a good source, that stuff has no nutrition in produce, or no produce. There's no nutrition in the produce. There's no value to it. And so people can eat as much as they want, and then they'll find that they're hungry afterwards. The reason they're hungry is because their body's still looking for the nutrition. And the only way to trigger that reaction in the physical sense to go eat is to make you hungry. So when it's looking for nutrition, you still feel like you're hungry because you might have just ate something that has no nutritional value at all. And so that's a lot of people's problems. And I know this because I thought I ate well, but about 5-6 years ago, one of my great friends, Sheila, she's a nutritionist, and I went on her program, and she taught me so many things I didn't know about food, but the importance of eating good nutritional food, good organic food. And just because it says organic doesn't mean it's, the best thing for you out there, because now they'll use that label just to get you to sucker you into buying it. So you got to know the different sources and what's best, and so, but you want good, healthy food. And when you eat good, healthy food, you become healthy. You don't need as much food. When I'm eating good and healthy, and I'm not going out to eat as much and all of that, I eat a third of what I typically would eat in a day. I really do. And I could go 10, 12 hours without eating, without no problem, without even getting hungry, because my body has the nutrition it needs. And so food is so important to every aspect of our body. First thing is your emotional aspect. Your emotional aspect, how you handle your emotions, is the most important thing for you. But then, like we were just saying, your food influences your emotions by what you're eating or what you're not eating. And so your food is the second most important thing for you. And then comes maybe working out and stuff like that. But truthfully, when you're eating the right food, you don't even need to go work out and stuff. Your body will change to a nice, healthy body. It might take some work, some time for it to get there, depending on how far somebody might be out of shape. But healthy food will create a healthy body, and your body will heal any ailment once you give it the right nutrition. It's absolutely amazing.
That's true. And one thing I want to add on the back of that is, we mentioned GMO, which means genetically modified. I don't even really know what the O stands for, but it's genetically modified. But the way they get around that is you have to be careful, because Like we would buy pizzas at a store that was known for, healthy food, and it wouldn't say GMO. So we're thinking this is great. Flip it over and it says bioengineered ingredients or contains a bioengineered ingredient. That's the same thing as GMO. So don't be sitting there thinking, oh, because it doesn't say GMO, but it says bioengineered, that this is healthy and good to eat. No, it's the same thing. They're just making it sound more scientific so you think this is better, and it's not.
Yeah, no, they use marketing words all the time. Natural. They're now organic. Organics on everything. And look at it. You got to read the labels. I mean, that's one of the very first things that Sheila taught us in the nutrition program, how to read labels. You read the labels, you look at the labels, see what's inside the ingredients and stuff. And some of the stuff, well, and the biggest tip, is if you can't say it and you don't know what it is, then you probably don't want it in your body. And me personally, I mean, I think food is one of the best things in the world. I mean, that's one of the best things in existence. Food and sex are the top two, period, in existence. And food might be my number one. I don't know. It's so enjoyable. But and I like a lot of food that isn't healthy. I mean, I like sweets, I like donuts, I like cookies. I love ice cream. Ice cream is one of my weaknesses. Um, but it's always about making smart choices on that. But the way I like to look at it is I try to eat healthy 80-90% of the time. So when I do want a cookie, if I do want a piece of cake, or if I want ice cream and cake and stuff, I don't feel guilty when I have it then, because I eat healthy most of the time, so my body can take it. Our bodies are very enduring. They can handle a lot of different stuff, and they'll bounce right back. Again, if you feed it the right stuff, you'd be on your deathbed, and if you feed it the right stuff, you'll bounce right back. I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Gerson therapy, but by Dr. Max Gerson, who was around in like 1920. But he was just trying to cure his migraine headaches, and he just did it with juicing. He was juicing vegetables, and he juiced vegetables and then did a coffee enema. And there's a few other little minor things in there, but that's mainly the whole program. All natural. Okay. He went on the talk radios because not only did it cure his migraine, but then they found out it started curing tuberculosis, and then it started curing this, it started curing that. And then lo and behold, they found out it was curing cancer. And so this guy on CBS on the radio, because they didn't have TV back then, brought him on and talked to him about the whole thing. They were all excited because they got this new program that they're going to cure cancers. Well, they fired the CBS host because he brought him on to talk about it, and they went after Max Gerson and basically tried to assassinate him twice, and eventually was successful the second time. But they poisoned him through his secretary because they didn't want this information getting out. And so it's 100% natural. No chemicals, nothing like that. No chemo shot, no bullshit that they give you at the fucking hospital. But it's all natural, and it's illegal in this country. Absolutely 100% illegal in this country to do the procedure for somebody. You can go get the book and you can learn it and do it on yourself. They have institutes that you can go to and learn from, but they cannot do the procedure themselves for you. And so there's hospitals in Mexico and other countries that you could fly to and go to and do this. And so, and this is where I was getting at, is about bouncing back. Okay, so I watched some of the testimonies on some of the people that went to the Gerson therapy, and these people were on their deathbed. The doctors were telling them, there's nothing more we can do for you. Go home, get your paperwork in order, say your goodbyes. And thank God a lot of these people did not just take that. They were like, we're not done yet. And so they found the Gerson therapy, and they went, and most of these people were out of country that would actually go to the hospitals and stuff, or their institutes, or clinics, I'm sorry. And they would go there, and they would They would sit there, and basically what they do at the clinics is they'll teach you and they'll work with you for like 3 weeks, teaching you every step and getting you down to, it. And once you know it, then that's when you'll actually go home. But when I was watching these testimonies on some of these people that were sent home to die by the doctors, in 3 days, they were sitting there going, my pain is gone. I feel so much better. And all they're doing is juicing and drinking the natural juice out of the vegetables. They juice like 20 pounds of vegetables a day. I actually know somebody when I was teaching ThetaHealing, and we taught some classes up in Oregon. We taught, matter of fact, for a family of doctors, and they had a farm and stuff. But their youngest daughter, she was a radiologist, and she had stage 4 breast cancer when we met her. That was one of the reasons why we were up there. So they were trying everything natural to heal her. They're part of the medical field, and she refused to go do chemo and all of that. And so she did the Gerson therapy, and she's lucky enough that, they had a farm and stuff. So she was able to get enough produce. I mean, because I'm sure that can get expensive and stuff. The actual institute, what was it, probably 10 years ago, I was trying to get my cousin to go, and I think it was like $20,000. I think they said to go to the Institute that long ago. So I don't know how much it is now, but way cheaper than I'm sure it is to go through chemo and all of that stuff. But these people have amazing turnarounds and stuff in an instant. And that's the body, man. The human body is so amazing and so resilient, and can do so many amazing things if you feed it the right stuff.
Right. And I feel like the problem with the medical field, and, I'm not saying, this is flat for everything, but a lot of cases I hear is, well, as a doctor, I want to do this, this, and this for you, but I can't because the insurance needs this, this, and this. And for some reason, our insurance company, which ironically, I got a license to be an insurance adjuster, not in the medical side, but, a different side. But it kind of scared me a little bit where, hearing this and going, some pencil pusher behind a desk in an insurance company is dictating what can and cannot be done to help a patient, and tying the hands of the doctor who has the knowledge to help these people. You don't. What the hell is wrong with this system, and why did we allow that to even be allowed to take hold, and didn't stand up and say, wait a minute, you guys aren't medically trained. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know procedure from, pill to side effects, but yet you're dictating to me what has to be done to somebody.
I think it's because it's the same people that own the insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies. It's the pharmaceutical companies that, basically are running all of that. And so they're telling the insurance companies what to say. So that guy's just a patsy in the whole thing, and doing what he believes his job is. And so he tells you, no, you can't do this. You got to do this because this is what we're told that you have to do to use our insurance, and which is just a bunch of bullshit. As you can see, we pay so much money for insurance and health insurance and all this stuff. And what does it cover? Every year it covers less and less and less and less. So, and our insurance just keeps going up. So what the fuck are we paying these people for? I mean, I think it's absolutely stupid. And yeah, it's because the insurance companies is the pharmaceutical companies. They're just, washing both hands of their, both sides of their hands with our money and stuff. And so it's asinine. And when I was going through a lot of the ThetaHealing classes at first, I'm kind of looking at the doctors like, hey, these a-holes, they're against us and stuff. But, you start to realize it's like, no, that's not it. I think a lot of these doctors, probably 80-90% of them, are very loving people, but it's the system they go through. And that system is, again, run by the pharmaceutical companies. They're wined and dined by the pharmaceutical companies when they're going through college and all of that to learn how to be a doctor. And then when they go through the last steps of that, they're definitely being wined and dined. That the soon-to-be doctor and his wife, or significant other, they're all being wined and dined, and they're telling them. And because they're living that type of lifestyle, it's so easy to brainwash them and stuff. And so I think that's a lot of the reasons why we had the problems that happened with COVID. But me personally, I mean, I'm not trying to tell anybody else what to do and stuff, but yeah, I mean, I take my health into my own hands. I try to study what's good for me, how to stay healthy naturally. The older I get, the more I make sure I don't put any chemicals in my body, not at all. I mean, I suffer with migraines and stuff. I mean, thank God, because of stuff I've learned, and my migraines have got less and less, and I really haven't had a horrible bout in several years now. But I'll get mild cases of it. But that's easy to deal with after I've had the horrible cases I've had for 25 years or so. But even with how much I suffer for 10, 15 hours, I won't take an aspirin. I won't take an Excedrin. I won't take nothing, because I won't put chemicals in my body. I don't trust these companies. I trust nature. I trust the creative energy. And so throughout the years, it's taken me times, but I found ways of trying to keep myself healthy so my body doesn't go into those states. I've learned that stress helps kick them in. Dehydration helps kick it in. There's a lot of different things, like beer. Something in beer sometimes, will kick it in. So I stopped drinking beer years ago, but so I just tell everybody, I mean, if you really want to be healthy, you have to do the research. You have to understand what's wrong with you. I mean, it's great with Western medicine if we have something that's a surprise. We get in an accident, and we need to be patched up really quick. Western medicine's great, and I think a lot of those doctors care. They're just misinformed. Um, uh, but if you get like cancer, something like that, and you got to get it cut out of you right away, go do it. But I'm going to tell you right now, the very first thing you should do once you heal up is you better start researching, why did you get cancer? What caused that cancer? Because them cutting it out of you isn't the cure. Okay, that's just a temporary fix. Right. So if you don't resolve yourself of the emotional issues or the toxins going into your body and all that stuff, you're going to basically probably get it back in the future, or some other type of form of illness and stuff. So you always want to find where the core result came from and try to resolve that, because that's the best way to heal the body. And look, we went into a whole different topic again.
Right. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up because it's getting late where I am. And I know you probably have things to do tonight. We did go longer than expected. And so I will say good night to everyone, and thank you to everyone in the chat room for your great questions and for watching. Thank you, Jeff, for coming on and sharing what you know and sharing your ideas with us. And so our next episode will be Wednesday at 9 o'clock Central Time. And that'll be Dr. Kimberly McGeorge joining us for Riding Through the Unknown. And so I'm going to say good night from Riding Through the Unknown to all of you, and have a wonderful week, and we will see you on the next episode. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.